The senior class president at Pineview School has gotten an ultimatum from the school's principal. During your speech at graduation, don't talk about your work with gay rights activism and don't say anything about the state's Don't Say Gay law or risk shutting down graduation altogether. We'll have a conversation with the Harvard-bound graduate. We'll talk about the law, what effect it could have on the gay community, and what he plans to do graduation night. This is The Lead. Welcome. I'm Jim DeLaw. The bill recently signed by Governor Ron DeSantis takes effect in July. The formal title is the Parental Rights in Education Bill. The bulk of the new law affects how mental health services, say with school counselors, for example, are delivered, and how much control parents will have over those conversations. The language is vague, and critics say it could have far-reaching implications for students, potentially even those who have no connection to LGBTQ issues. In Sarasota, in the middle of the storm, is Xander Moritz, the senior class president at Pineview School for the Gifted in Nokomis. He recalled a week of protests against the new law.
This protest it's actually been an absolute whirlwind for the last 2 months, but I believe it was towards March. I think it was at the very beginning. Check that for you, but I believe that's when it was. Actually, in the exact same week, in I think a 5-day period, I held the large rally that was here at Sarasota with city commissioners, the mayor, state representatives speaking. Then the day after, I went and I testified at the Florida Senate. And then 2 days later was the walkout. So it was one crazy blur. The walkout was something at Pineview that a lot of students actually participated and engaged in. I love my community at Pineview School. I really do. I think that the people there are incredible. I think that when a law like the Don't Say Gay law, I think it has an effect even before it goes into effect. And I think that it's changed the culture. I think it's changed the way that people interact. And I think it has made it impossible for a lot of the people who work there and my administrators to be supportive of us as administrators, maybe not as human beings, but on a school campus, the Don't Say Gay law bullies teachers and administrators into being unsupportive. And our protest was actually fought against as well. I was called into the office. They tore down all of the posters that we had promoting the walkout. They told me to cancel it and that there would be consequences if I did not. And then there were school security officers present at the walkout. But we went through with it, and it was, I think, a great success. We got messages out there, was circulated statewide. We had an incredible moment of community for the LGBTQ students here at Pineview, and it was incredibly important for everyone on campus, especially me, to see that despite this law, that the students are still going to speak up and speak out and fight because we have to, because nobody else is for us.
Right. Now, the administration did try to stop it. What were the repercussions of this?
There were no repercussions. There were none, I think. And I think those are the symbols where we see that the law is able to effectively bully our administrators into trying to silence and oppress us. But I think it's these little moments where I have to identify as people, this is different. Like, I think that's the whole point of the Don't Say Gay law, is it separates people from their humanity. And I think that is, it's on clear display. I was threatened and bullied into trying not to have it, but then where were the actual repercussions? Nothing happened. I think that the people of my community are supportive of me. I think that the administrative side of them is not.
Yeah. The proponents of this bill, they talk a lot about sex education in K through 3 as being the main focus of this bill, but it goes way far beyond that, does it not?
It's really hilarious for a number of reasons. One, there is no sex education happening in K through 3 classrooms in the state of Florida or anywhere in the country, period. So that's not the reason for this law. If it was, then it would be the most successful law ever, because that law already exists. You don't need to repeat laws. You don't need to create copy and paste laws. The real reason of this is obviously in that elusive and abusive language. In that bill, it says that this can be expanded to any grade level. And the person that's in charge, or the group of people that are in charge of expanding it, is the Department of Education. And so when you apply context and when you look at what's happened, that's when it becomes dangerous, because the Department of Education has a history of homophobic policies. They've taken down all LGBTQ resources from their websites. They labeled all LGBTQ related books as vulgar and inappropriate, even ones meant for kindergartners about 2 penguins being married in a nonfiction in a zoo. They've shown that they are willing to oppress the LGBTQ community. So when we give them free power to do anything they want with this empty bill, or law now, that's when it becomes really scary.
When is graduation? When are you scheduled to speak?
So graduation changes for everyone, but ours is the 22nd of May.
22nd of May. Okay. Now, does the class president always traditionally speak?
Yes. So typically each class president will speak about their year of service and the growth that they've seen from their class. Because I'm Pineview's first class president that was actually elected all 4 years, it is just me this year.
Okay. So you've been class president for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Okay. So you're preparing your speech. Had you been telling anyone about what you're going to talk about?
So that's something that's really important to note is I had never discussed the speech and a draft had never been shown to anyone of the speech. So there was no reason for them to believe that I would discuss the bill.
Okay. And then you hear that the principal wants to talk to you. And so tell me about that meeting.
So I was called down to the office. This has happened a number of times. I didn't know what it was going to be for because I do hold leadership positions in the community. It really could have been for anything. And I walk in and I know that as a human being, my principal is someone who I believe to be a good person and someone I believed that would support all students and all families. And so when I was told that any reference of these things, as well as reference to my personal context and issues regarding my sexuality in that context, and then any activism and any passions, I think it was called, regarding like the bill and things like that would result in my mic being cut, that was just, it was like a sledgehammer to the face. I could not comprehend it because it felt so backwards. And that's when it really set in for me. It felt like the dramatic music should be playing in the background, the dun, 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 because it was a perfect crystal clear image of the impact that this bill can have, will have, and is already having, because I know that this isn't the human being that I know. And so it was hurtful, it was upsetting, and it was just really shocking. We talked for a pretty long time. He insisted that I give him his word. I told him I understood. And he was like, no, I need the word. And then I said, yes, you have it. And I left and I kind of walked out, and one of my teachers saw me and saw that I was just out of sorts, and they asked me what happened, and I told them, and they also lost their minds because that isn't something that Pineview is. It doesn't reflect Pineview's culture at its core, I believe, and it doesn't reflect the people involved. And so we were all just shocked and really upset. And also, I think we left the conversation, both the teacher and I, scared because it just felt so backwards and so out of nowhere. So for the fact that the law can have such a 180 effect in a school and so quickly was just terrifying.
Did he give you any reason why he was putting these kinds of restrictions on you? Did he relate it directly to the bill, or is that just an inference on your part, or what?
It's polarizing and not school appropriate, which you will probably be able to imagine made my face a deep shade of red, as I'm told that my human rights are controversial and therefore not appropriate for a school setting. I'm the class president and my human rights are not appropriate for my speech at my school graduation.
So when did this meeting take place? How long ago was that?
A week or two ago.
Okay. So you told him that you wouldn't do this. So what are you going to do?
Well, that's a really good question. There are two things that I'm weighing in my head right now. One is what matters to me as a human being, and it's my rights and it's the rights of every LGBTQ student in this state and the next. And that is something that I will not compromise over anything at any point in time. So I insist on holding that as the core of how I operate and how I will handle the speech. But I also need to factor in the fact that I cannot ruin something that hundreds of my friends have worked for 4 years. I will not take away their moment simply because we have an administrator and a government that is telling us that those are the two choices. I will simply find a way to have both, and I won't have it any other way. So that's just how it's going to be.
Is there any way that you think you can fight this?
I can fight this, but I have no way of leaning more into the government and more into this structure to do so. Any fighting I do will be with me, the Social Equity and Education Initiative, and my peers.
All right, well said. So let's get into this other piece of it. You're a plaintiff in this lawsuit that is trying to get the bill or trying to get the law overturned. Tell me how you came to be actually named in the suit, and tell me what the suit is aiming to do.
So I was brought into the lawsuit actually due to the organizing and the speaking I did at Sarasota State Gay Rally. Someone there was the one who contacted me and connected me to the law team in New York. I believe that my name was put on the suit and that I was brought present into this, not only because I bring a strong perspective as a student and someone who's experiencing this marginalization, but also as an organizer and someone who has fought anti-LGBTQ policy for several years and someone who has worked in the state of Florida to undo a lot of these homophobic trends and policies. I am aware of the structure of this bill, and I'm aware of the way that these politicians are approaching it and thinking. And so I brought a lot to the narrative of the complaint and the way that we approached it strategically. And the lawsuit has a very simple intention, and that intention is to preserve human rights and set a precedent where these human rights cannot continue to be eroded and stripped away. And that's all that it is, because the Don't Say Gay law is factually, blatantly, obviously, and profoundly not constitutional. And so the lawsuit just proves that.
All right. And I also see that you have a petition going on change.org that last time I looked had almost 2,000 signatures on.
Really?
Yeah. Tell me how that came about.
So this came about due to precedent of success. What we see is that when you can put a tangible physical image of where your support lies, where the people are thinking, it is very hard for people to say, no, we're acting in the best interest of the people, when you have the best interest of the people screenshotted and with a number next to it. So this petition is our tangible way of showing people where the support lies, show people what they think about the freedom of speech and about human rights. And that's why it's such a powerful tool, because every single human being who signs that petition is actively building our case and my case to be who I am and speak about who I am and just exist as a student and a human being.
Do you think they're going to change their mind between now and the 22nd?
I think I am going to change minds between now and the 22nd.
Very good. Okay. Lastly, after graduation, what's next for you? Where are you headed?
I'm headed off to Harvard. There I'll be studying government, and I will be expanding the social equity and education initiative with the resources there to do what we're doing here in Florida on a national level.
Excellent. Xander, thanks so much for talking to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And good luck with everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing our story. It means everything.
For the record, I asked Stephen Covert, the principal of Pineview School, for comment. He declined. The Sarasota County School District told me they have no written policy about student speakers at graduations. They wouldn't talk to me either, but emailed a nearly 400-word statement on their expectations of students. In part, it said, students are reminded that a graduation should not be a platform for personal political statements, especially those likely to disrupt the ceremony. Should a student vary from the expectations during the graduation, it may be necessary to take appropriate action. The principal did meet with Xander Moritz to remind him of the ceremony expectations, but the content of the speech had not yet been reviewed. Pineview School's graduation ceremony is scheduled May 22nd at the Van Wezel Performing Arts Hall. And that is The Lead. You can find all of our episodes on our website, mysuncoast.com. You can also download and subscribe to The Lead on platforms including Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your audio. I'm Jim DeLaw. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.